I, 27-year-old female, had plans to go out to dinner with my sister, 30-year-old female, as we do every month. She lives in my hometown and I live in the next state over with my boyfriend. We're about 35 minutes to an hour apart depending on traffic. We agreed to meet closer to hometown with my mom. One thing about her, she is always late. I expect she'll always be at least 30 minutes late, but it's been up to a few hours. And not just random plans, weddings, and graduations too. It's been brought up in the past by Mom and I, but she always brushes it off and gets upset. My boyfriend drove me over. I can't drive, and he offered to drop me before he had to head out for plans of his own near home and come back when he was done. I assumed after dinner we would just hang out at her house either way. Get to the place and start calling my sister. She usually doesn't say if she's going to be late, but if my mom is with her, she does, and I hadn't heard anything. I get Mom a few minutes later and she says they're behind because it took a while to get my nephew, who's almost one, ready, and my sister got in the shower later than expected. I didn't even know my nephew was coming, and she usually tells me if he is. Her husband was apparently there to let Mom in when she showed up, but went back to sleep as soon as she got there. Not sure why he couldn't help get baby ready, but that's none of my business. I check maps and it says 35 minutes, adding in getting baby strapped and secure, and then putting him in either the stroller or front carrier on her body. I was looking at 40 minutes. To top it off, we had reservations. She made the reservation, not me. I had never been to this place and didn't know if it was one of those places that don't let you have the table if your whole group isn't there. There was really no space to wait inside, and I'd have to stand outside. Anyway, I didn't feel like sitting alone for 40 minutes, even if I could. She doesn't keep her friends waiting this long when they make plans. I don't get why it's okay to do this to me and Mom. I'm speaking to Mom as they're trying to change the reservation online. At that point, I was fed up. If we agree to be there at a certain time, be there. 5 or 10 minutes late is fine, but not this. I told Mom I was going back home. I didn't feel like fuming at the table and acting like I wasn't mad when they got there, as I'd done before. She sounded hurt and mad, but said fine and that she would go home too. Since then, I haven't spoken to my sister. It's been a few weeks, and Mom doesn't want to get in the middle, but I told her I wasn't speaking to her until I get an apology. Mom told her she can't keep doing this on their ride back home and agrees it's an issue, but won't say much else. It's ridiculous to just always be late because you're bad at time management. She also wants to use the "it takes long to get a baby ready" excuse, which I would accept if it wasn't for the fact that this has been a problem long before my nephew was born or even a thought. So am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, meet your mom on your own. Have your husband drop you at your mom's place and bring some food so it's not any work for her. Forget about your sister. She's incredibly rude and disrespectful. Just see her at holidays and other big family events. Don't let her treat you like trash again. Comment 2, not the idiot. Honestly, I would have stopped agreeing to an outside date with her a long time ago. If I have to wait, it better be somewhere comfortable. Otherwise, I won't go. My late limit is 15 minutes, which I already find to be quite generous. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my previous post. I wanted to give you all an update on what's been happening over the past few days. After not speaking to my sister for a few weeks, I decided to reach out and try to smooth things over. I sent her a text explaining how her constant lateness made me feel disrespected and unimportant. I told her that I loved her and my nephew, but I needed her to make an effort to be on time when we made plans together. To my surprise, she responded almost immediately. She apologized for her behavior and admitted that she had been struggling with time management since becoming a mother. She said she felt overwhelmed and exhausted most of the time, and that getting out of the house with a baby was a lot harder than she had anticipated. I felt a pang of sympathy for her, remembering how difficult it was for me when I first moved out on my own. I told her I understood and that I was there to support her in any way I could. We agreed to meet up for coffee the next day to talk things out in person. The following morning, I arrived at the coffee shop a few minutes early. I was nervous but excited to see my sister and hopefully put this whole thing behind us. However, as the minutes ticked by and she still hadn't shown up, I felt that familiar frustration bubbling up inside me. Just as I was about to give up and leave, she burst through the door looking frazzled and apologetic. She explained that my nephew had been up all night with a fever, and she had been too worried to leave him with her husband. I could see the exhaustion and worry in her eyes, and my anger melted away. We sat down and talked for hours, catching up on each other's lives and discussing ways we could better communicate in the future. As we were leaving, my sister mentioned that she and her husband were thinking about moving closer to our hometown. She said they wanted to be closer to family, especially now that they had a child. I was thrilled at the idea of having her nearby again, but I couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive. You see, my boyfriend and I had been talking about moving in together for a while now. We had even started looking at apartments in the city where he worked. But with my sister potentially moving back home, I wasn't sure if I was ready to leave just yet. I didn't want to disappoint my boyfriend, but I also didn't want to miss out on being a part of my nephew's life. I knew I had to make a decision soon, but I was torn. Over the next few days, I agonized over what to do. I talked to my mom and my boyfriend, trying to get their perspectives. My mom said she would support me no matter what I decided, but I could tell she was hoping I would stay close by. My boyfriend, on the other hand, was a little more hesitant. He said he understood my desire to be near family, but he also reminded me of all the plans we had made together. He didn't want to hold me back, but he also didn't want to feel like he was being left behind. I knew I had to make a choice, but I was scared of making the wrong one. What if I moved away and regretted it? What if I stayed and resented my boyfriend for holding me back? In the end, I decided to take a risk. I told my boyfriend that I wanted to stay in our hometown for a little while longer, at least until my sister and her family were settled. I promised him that we would still move in together eventually, but I needed to be there for my family right now. To my relief, he was incredibly understanding. He said he loved me and wanted me to be happy, even if that meant putting our plans on hold for a bit. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, but I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. My sister and I still had a lot of work to do to rebuild our relationship, and I knew there would be times when I would second-guess my decision. But for now, I was just grateful to have the support of my family and my boyfriend. I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. Thanks for reading, everyone. I'll keep you updated on how things go from here. Am I the idiot for not sharing my gluten-free pizza with friends while pregnant and hungry? This is my first time posting anything, and I'm on mobile, so I'm unsure if I'm doing it right. I, 35-year-old female, am gluten-free, celiac, and have been for over half my life. My husband, 35-year-old male, is not. We had 2 friends stopping by for dinner who are also not gluten-free. My husband suggested we get pizza and mentioned to me that one of the friends only eats chicken as far as meat goes, so I should factor that into my order. I said, well, that doesn't really affect me since I wasn't planning on sharing, but noted I'll see what options they have for her. Husband freaks out at me because apparently I'm being ungrateful. He asked why I didn't want to share, and I said, the gluten-free pizzas are basically personal pizzas, and I regularly eat the whole thing when we order it. I'm supposed to offer half of mine to other people when I can't eat what they are eating? He wouldn't hear me at all and said if I didn't want to share, I could pay for my own pizza myself. I don't really care about paying for it myself, but the idea that I'm supposed to give away some of my dinner when I can't eat what other people are eating is stupid to me. It's not like we are ordering every pizza gluten-free. It just doesn't make sense. They eat my food, I can't eat their food. I can understand the principle of offering, but one gluten-free pizza from this place is only enough for one person. If we were getting multiple gluten-free ones, I'd absolutely share, but they got 2 larges for the 3 of them. He continued to go on about how ungrateful I was being and said some other stupid stuff before I told him to frick off and went upstairs. I ended up just going upstairs and not eating or seeing them at all. I came downstairs later and he had ordered me a gluten-free pizza and said from across the room, "Are you ready for your grateful-free pizza? You need to have a better attitude about things that aren't yours in the future." I didn't reply or eat the pizza. I was already heating something else up and hadn't noticed the pizza. But I will eat it later because I'm pregnant and starving all the time. Just for the record, this has happened before several years ago where we ordered pizza and only one gluten-free for me, and it arrived and everyone thought mine looked super good. I don't order regular pepperoni tomato sauce, so the 4 other people, husband included, took over half my pizza before I even got a bite. It pissed me off because then I didn't have enough food, and they still had plenty plus pieces of mine. So perhaps this is a sore subject for me. Again, I'm also pregnant, though this would still bother me if I weren't. Am I the idiot for being ungrateful? Now, for a few comments before the update, comment 1, not the idiot. And why has he come to the conclusion that you are both obligated to go hungry and be grateful for the opportunity to go hungry? Ask him that. Comment 2, not the idiot. Your husband is a big one though. Also thoughtless. Are you ever heard? Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my previous post. It's been a wild 2 weeks since then and I've got some updates to share. So after the whole pizza fiasco, things were pretty tense between my husband and me. We barely spoke for a few days, both of us too stubborn to apologize. But then, out of the blue, my husband came to me with a peace offering. He had done some research and found a local pizza place that offered a wide variety of gluten-free options, including full-size pizzas. He suggested we give it a try, just the two of us, as a way to make amends. I was hesitant at first, still feeling a bit hurt from our argument, but I could see he was making an effort. So I agreed, and we headed out to the pizza place. When we got there, I was pleasantly surprised to see just how many gluten-free options they had. Not only did they have full-size pizzas, but they also had gluten-free garlic bread, pasta, and even desserts. We ordered a couple of pizzas to share, and as we waited, my husband apologized for his behavior. He admitted that he hadn't fully understood my perspective, and that he should have been more considerate of my dietary needs. I appreciated his apology and, in turn, acknowledged that I could have handled the situation better too. As we dug into our pizzas, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I was glad we were able to move past this issue. But little did I know, this was just the calm before the storm. A few days later, I had a routine checkup with my obstetrician. Everything seemed to be going well until the doctor noticed something concerning on the ultrasound. She told me that there was a potential issue with the baby's development and that I would need to undergo some additional tests. I was terrified. All sorts of worst-case scenarios ran through my mind, and I couldn't help but blame myself. Had I been too stressed during the pregnancy? Was it something I ate? I knew deep down that it wasn't my fault, but the guilt was overwhelming. My husband was my rock through it all. He accompanied me to every appointment, held my hand during the tests, and reassured me that everything would be okay. It was a side of him I hadn't seen before, and it made me fall in love with him all over again. After what felt like an eternity, we finally got the results. The baby was fine. The issue the doctor had seen on the ultrasound turned out to be a false alarm, and there was no cause for concern. I burst into tears of relief, and my husband wrapped me in a tight hug. Looking back, I realized that this experience brought us closer together. It made us appreciate each other more and put things into perspective. The pizza argument seems so trivial now, and we both realized that we needed to be more understanding and supportive of each other, especially with a baby on the way. In the weeks that followed, we made a conscious effort to communicate better and be more considerate of each other's needs. My husband started learning more about celiac disease and even tried some gluten-free recipes himself. I, in turn, made an effort to be more flexible and not let my dietary restrictions dictate every aspect of our lives. It hasn't been easy, but we're taking things one day at a time. We know that parenthood will bring its own set of challenges, but we feel more prepared to face them together. And who knows, maybe our little one will inherit my love for gluten-free pizza. Thanks for sticking with me through this update. It's been, well, interesting, but I'm grateful for the lessons learned and the stronger bond I now share with my husband. Am I the idiot for giving away my graduation tickets after my dad and sister said they'd be late? I, 18-year-old female, have my high school graduation ceremony this Wednesday. It was sent to my parents in an email that I will be giving a speech that day, as my grades made me valedictorian of my school's class of 2024, and I was excited to do so. My school made us reserve and buy tickets to the ceremony weeks in advance, and I picked mine up on the 26th. The problem started at dinner when I told my family I picked up the tickets for my graduation day and would keep them with me until the day of, just to make sure they don't get lost. My dad told me that he and my sister had plans for an hour before the ceremony, but that my mom would be there the whole time and that they'd try to be there for the after party. I was honestly shocked for a moment before starting to laugh, assuming they weren't serious. When I realized they actually weren't joking, I'll admit I was a bit mad. I'm usually a very shy and non-confrontational person, even around my family, but I started yelling at my dad and sister, asking if they were seriously ditching my graduation ceremony. I told them that the after party was useless to attend, and that all the pictures of the graduates with their families would be taken at least 2 hours before the ceremony. They said it's fine, and we can take our own pictures the day after my graduation, but I got up and left dinner. Over the weekend, I saw a few people on my class group chat complain that they didn't get enough tickets. So I offered up the 2 tickets I had and met up with a girl from my class to give them to her. And even though I told her not to, she actually paid me the original price for them. When the topic of graduation was brought up by my dad today during lunch, I told him that I gave the other 2 tickets away and only my mom will be attending, so they shouldn't bother with the after party. He got mad and asked why I would do that, to which I replied that I don't see the point in wasting money on tickets if they're not going to use them. My dad blew up on me, saying I'm acting like a spoiled brat, and it's not like I'll die if he and my sister are a bit late to my graduation. I spoke to a few people about it, my friends and my grandma. My friends said good riddance, and if they consider their plans more important, they can have fun. But my grandma said that while she understands my side, I shouldn't have given away the tickets just to spite my dad, because maybe he would have changed his mind and gone on time. So I'm looking for a non-biased opinion. Am I the idiot? Edit for info. The plans my dad and sister have is some sleepover with her and her friend group in the north, around a 2-hour drive from where we live. The parents didn't want to leave a bunch of under 16-year-old girls alone that far. So everyone's parents are also going for supervision, apart from my mom, who is going to be at my graduation. Update. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. As a high school valedictorian who gave the speech, let me say I would have disowned either of my parents if they had even suggested not coming. My grandparents drove 500 miles to hear that speech. It's incomprehensible to me that any parent would say such a thing to a child who has achieved that much. Shocking. You can't be the jerk because there is a black hole-like jerk vortex in your family, and you know exactly where it is. Comment 2. First of all, congratulations on passing and being valedictorian. Also, if your dad and sister planned a sleepover trip to the north, how would they be able to get back in time for your after party? They would never make it in time. So not the jerk, but your father and sister are. I take it graduation was a known date, so they actively planned this trip knowing when the graduation would be. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my update. A lot has happened since my last post. The day after I gave away the tickets, my dad confronted me again. He was furious and demanded that I get the tickets back. I tried to explain that it was too late and the girl had already paid for them, but he wouldn't listen. He accused me of being selfish and not considering the family's plans. The argument escalated and we both said some hurtful things. I ended up storming out of the house and staying at a friend's place for the night. The next day, my mom tried to mediate between us. She suggested that we all sit down and talk things out calmly. During the conversation, my dad revealed that the sleepover plans had been in the works for months and that my sister had been looking forward to it. He said that he felt torn between supporting her and attending my graduation. I started to understand his perspective a bit more, but I still felt hurt that he hadn't communicated this to me earlier. As we continued talking, some old family issues started to resurface. My dad brought up how he had always felt like I was closer to my mom and that I never made an effort to include him in my life. I was taken aback by this revelation. I had no idea he felt that way. I tried to explain that I didn't mean to exclude him, but I could see how my actions might have come across that way. The conversation took an unexpected turn when my mom revealed that she had been considering leaving my dad for a while now. She said that she had been unhappy in the marriage for years and that this incident had just brought those feelings to the surface. I was shocked and I didn't know how to react. My dad looked devastated. In the end, we didn't come to a resolution about the graduation tickets. My mom said she would still attend the ceremony, but my dad and sister would go to the sleepover as planned. I felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and confusion. I couldn't believe that my family was falling apart right before one of the biggest milestones of my life. On the day of my graduation, I tried to put on a brave face. I gave my valedictorian speech and smiled for pictures with my mom. but inside I was hurting. I couldn't stop thinking about the empty seats where my dad and his sister should have been. After the ceremony, I skipped the after party and went straight home. I didn't feel like celebrating. In the days that followed, things only got worse. My parents officially separated, and my dad moved out of the house. My sister blamed me for the whole situation, saying that if I hadn't been so stubborn about the tickets, none of this would have happened. I knew deep down that the issues in my family ran much deeper than that, but I still couldn't help feeling guilty. As I reflect on everything that's happened, I realized that there were a lot of unresolved issues and hidden resentments in my family that I wasn't aware of. I wish we had communicated better and been more open with each other. Maybe then we could have avoided this whole mess. But I also know that I can't change the past. All I can do now is try to move forward and heal from this experience. It's going to be a long and difficult road, but I'm determined to come out stronger on the other side. Thanks for reading my update. I appreciate all the support and advice from this community. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.